You know what? This show today, I could call this the SCHIIT show. It's about the SCHIIT Freya Plus fully balanced tube preamplifier. Now, I reviewed the original, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I think it was kind of a quirky product. But I think all the quirks, all the kinks have been ironed out. And this time around with the Freya Plus, it was very, very, very smooth sailing. But the reason that I really wanted to do the review right now is because SCHIIT's just started offering these drop-in replacements for the 6SN7 tubes that are used in the Freya Plus. So in other words, there's anxiety. That's what it is. Tube anxiety, that a lot of tubes come from Russia. What if we can't get them from Russia? What am I going to do? So they came out with these LISST drop-in replacement solid-state tubes. Inside the tube, the LISST is a depletion mode MOSFET transistor. So you take out the tube, stick in the LISST, and you're rocking and rolling all over again. So there you go. So I hope that makes people who are nervous about the future of getting tubes, makes them a little less nervous. But for me, I was really curious how this solid-state tube replacement would sound. Now, SCHIIT is not claiming, not by a long shot, that it sounds like a tube. It has its own sound. And that's what's so interesting about the Freya Plus, is that it basically now has 4 different sounds. Because you can listen to the Freya Plus as a purely passive preamp, meaning no electronics whatsoever in the signal path. Just this 128-step stepped attenuator. So you can listen to it passively. You can listen to it with a buffer stage, which is electronics, but electronics that have no gain. So the signal going in and the signal coming out are the same level, but they're buffered. And that sounds different. And then, of course, there's listening to it with the 6SN7 tubes, the glass tubes. And that also sounds different. And then listening with the LISST is yet again a different flavor. And that's what I really wanted to get into, is how it sounds with those different modes of listening. The Freya Plus is made in California. Now, they are making some of their products in Texas, but this one is definitely made in California. It comes with a 5-year warranty. And the LISS tubes, which were also made in the US, by the way, have a 2-year warranty. So we'll look at the back side of the Freya. Now, there's no headphone jack on the front panel. You would think that SCHIIT's known for their headphone amps. They might as well stick one in there, but in fact, they did not. The remote is an all-metal remote, really tiny, a minimalist remote. It just has volume up, volume down, mute, input selector, and those modes from passive to active. And you can now get your SCHIIT Freya Plus in silver or black for the same price. Now, you can get it without any tubes at all, and then the price is $849. If you get it with the LISST solid-state tubes, the price is $1,049. If you get it with the 6SN7 tubes, the price goes up to $1,149. If you're more of a, let's say, a solid-state guy or lady, no problem. You can get the Freya S, which is 100% solid-state. There's no tube sockets whatsoever. And that one is just $599. So, yeah, you got choices. You definitely got choices. Speaking of choices, let's take a look inside the Freya S. It's pretty straightforward, as a minimalist design you would think it would be, and it is. Oh, and there will be an Audiophiliac viewer system of the day later on in today's show. The rest of the review system consisted of 2 power amplifiers, a Mytek Brooklyn, and also the SCHIIT Agir. The source was an Oppo Blu-ray player. I'll put a picture of it up right now, and also a Mytek Liberty 2 DAC. I only played CDs over the course of this review. Oh, and the speakers, just one pair of speakers, all I needed were these, and this is the KEF LS50 Meta. It's a really high resolution speaker. It really tells you what's going on. And you know, this is the most time I've ever spent listening to the LS50s continuously since I actually did the review, because I wasn't moving speakers around this time. It's a great speaker. For $1,500 a pair, it's so solidly built. It's so, I think, beautiful and unique looking. There's nothing else like it, and it sounds freaking great for $1,500 a pair. To get acquainted with the sound, the basic sound, and I was listening at first with the Freya with the LISST solid state tubes installed, because I kind of got the others. I just really wanted to, you know, get to know what that is. And one of the recordings that jumped out was this one, the Rolling Stones live in Texas, 1978. Wow. They are in absolute peak form for performing. I think this is as good as they ever got. Much better than they were in the 60s. Keith is just tearing it up. I mean, you know, in the 21st century, I'm not even sure Keith actually plays anymore. He just makes gestures and opening chords and stuff. But here, he is killing it. He is so good. Charlie is just hitting those drums like a madman. You know, he's a very simple drummer. To be in a major band like the Rolling Stones and just keeping it so simple, just hitting those drums, keeping that beat, and yet swinging, just keeping the band moving forward. He is amazing. And you know, I'm thinking, Keith in 1978 was, I think, like 33 or 34 years old. So he was still really young. But the set list is kind of like the set list they play now in the 21st century, where they're all oldies. They were playing these songs, like Some Girls, that were the new songs of the moment. So there's this vitality to the performance that you just don't get in later shows, because they're young and because the songs are fresh. And that was really coming through this system with the LISST. No problem. But that's rock and roll. And I would say, by the way, and you can see video of this show, probably all over YouTube. Rolling Stones in Texas, 1978. Now, the sound quality of the recording, it's good. It's about average live recording quality of the 1970s for a rock show. So not great, doesn't suck, but the performance makes it all worthwhile. And I was so digging it. So for contrast, the next piece of music I played was this one. The band is called Little Kruta. They're a string orchestra, all female orchestra, and they're playing the music of Metallica. And they're playing one Metallica album, and Justice for All. Now, I'm not really a Metallica fan at all. I don't even know that record until I heard Little Kruta play it. And they had 4 guest vocalists, all women vocalists. And it was spine-tingling. It was so good. And this is a Chesky recording. I was present at the session. It was done here in Brooklyn. And there's room sound and space, and the church is acoustic. And he's just this lavish array of strings. That was incredibly beautiful. Now, at this point, oh, did I mention what I was going to use as a comparison to the Freya Plus with the LISST? Well, I decided to have some contrast here, I decided to use a First Watt B1 NuTube preamp. Now, this is interesting. It's designed by Nelson Pass, but it is not really a Pass product. It's not really even a First Watt product. It's sold as a kit through DIYaudio.com. I will link to it below. The kit costs $299. And the reason it has NuTube in the name of the product, of the B1 NuTube, is that it has a NuTube in it, a Korg, let's call it a solid state tube. But it glows, it's really tiny, it looks like a chip, basically. Anyway, so it has a very tube sound. So I thought that would make for a great comparison with the Freya with the LISST tubes. So that's what I did. So when I went from listening to Little Kruta and the Stones over to the B1 NuTube preamp, the B1 was more dynamic. It had more kick. The vocals sounded more human, but it was softer in its presentation. Softer meaning less detailed, less clear on top. The Freya was more transparent. Yeah, that's the word. It's definitely more transparent. But the NuTube, the First Watt B1 NuTube, was just a smoother ride, but very dynamic. And it sounded live, but I don't mean like detailed coming at you live, not like that, but just let's call it beauty. That's what it was giving me, lots of beauty. You know, I did the same thing, and by the way, I apologize if you hear some construction sounds going on in the apartment next door, but they may be bleeding through, and I apologize for that. Anyway, so the next comparison was with this incredible Lyle Lovett recording called I Love Everybody, and I love this recording. It's really, really good. And when I did that comparison between the Freya with the LISST and the B1 with the NuTube version of the sound sounded like Lyle Lovett was singing into a better microphone. And I heard, you know, just more space with the B1 than I did with the LISST. The LISST was, again, more transparent and clearer, but flatter sounding, more solid state sounding, let's put it that way. You know, so at this point, I decided to stop doing the comparisons between the Freya and the First Watt B1 NuTube, because we got that covered, right? Now I just wanted to hear what the sound of the Freya was just with the passive, in the passive mode, meaning no active electronics whatsoever. And the sound, my very first impression was that it sounded very clear. There was an immediacy to the sound that I really, really liked. But as is the case with many passive preamps, it didn't have much in the way of dynamics. It just sounded upfront, clear, quieter details and stuff I wasn't hearing nearly as well. It was a very interesting sound, and I can imagine with some different types of music, I would actually prefer listening through the passive mode than I would through the others. So I'm really happy that it was there. But stepping up to the buffer mode, where there is active electronics but no gain, things improved, definitely. That I had that clarity, but I also had better low-level detail, dynamics improved. It was definitely a more enjoyable sound in those ways, but again, lacking the 3D quality that I was looking for. I wanted more substance to the sound. Now, switching over to the 6SN7, well, it wasn't that it was tubular in the sense of adding warmth or body or soul around this. It didn't do that exactly, but it was definitely more dynamically alive and exciting and more quieter parts of the signal I heard better. It just opened up more. It was just more, well, in that sense, natural sounding. So I'm continuing with comparisons, and I played this incredible Wendy Carlos CD. It's a remix of her music for Clockwork Orange. So she just redid it, and you know, she is amazing with electronica. She has such a sound that's uniquely hers, and she did this in 1998, long after the movie came out. The movie is a much tamer version of the music that's on the 1998 remix by Wendy herself. And the textures, the synth textures, that detail, that crispness, that intentional distortion she's playing with was so good with the 6SN7 tubes engaged. That really, they just lit up more. There was more life to the sound of this electronic music, because that's what she does so well, is that even though it's purely synthesizer electronics, you feel like there's a human there really making these sounds happen, and in fact there is, because it's Wendy doing her magic. One of the things that's really cool about the design is that the tubes are only turned on when you're listening to them. When you're listening in passive mode or buffer mode, the tube section is turned off, so you're extending the life of the tubes. And I think that's incredibly useful, especially if you're, do a lot of have it on for background or parties or something, whatever, where you just want to play music all the time. Sure, you could just have the buffer mode on and save the tubes. I also want to add that if I was going to live with a Freya Plus, I would probably buy better tubes. And first of all, the whole thing with tube shortages, it's hard to get the tubes. I'm going to put up some ads from Tube Depot and some other company, I can't think of the name right now, they have plenty of tubes. So 6SN7s are not in short supply, and new old stock, really, really nice ones can be had for not that much money. You have to make sure they're matched. The 4 of them are matched to use them in the Freya though. So you have to buy a quad set of matched 6SN7s. And quiet ones would be nice too. The tubes that I use, the 6SN7 supplied by SCHIIT, were extremely quiet, very well behaved tubes. Oh, and speaking of tubes, this preamp runs really hot. I mean, the tubes are hot, but the chassis itself, the metal parts of the chassis, run hot to the touch. Oh, and for knob feel, that knob on the Freya Plus is solid aluminum. It feels really good. Now I will say that when you turn it to increase or decrease the volume, you're click, 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 click of the relay switching on and off to change the volume. But the advantage of a 128-step attenuator is that it's very precisely matched. Left and right channels are very close, so they don't drift over time and stuff. So even when you listen at really quiet levels, left-right balance is right on the money. I think we're ready. I think we have reached that point. Yes, that very special time for. So Steve, what do you really think of the SCHIIT Freya Plus? It's a pretty shitty product. Anyway, no, I think it's phenomenal. I think that they can make a product of this quality with US sourced parts, sell with a 5-year warranty. It's a remarkable value. I can't think of anybody else who's selling an equivalent product in the US or elsewhere for this kind of money. Let's call it $11.49 with the tubes. That has all this flexibility. Because I think the flexibility is the thing that I keep coming back to with the Freya Plus. I like change. You know, I like hearing different sounds. I get bored easily. That's why I'm a reviewer, right? But this preamp, especially if you have 6SN7 glass tubes and also the LISST solid state tubes, you have a choice of 4 different sounds that you can get from this preamp, right? You can have the passive sound, which I really like, more than I usually do for passive. The buffer, which is in some ways better. And of course, the active with 6SN7s of your choice. And of course, you can change the sound by changing from one set of 6SN7s to another. They all sound different. And of course, these new LISST for people who are a little nervous, you have anxiety about the future of that tube, which I don't think is really going to be a problem. But if you feel that way, now you have the security of knowing no matter what, you can have your Freya Plus sailing far into the future and sounding really nice. And now we have reached the highlight of this show, the Audiophiliac viewer system of the day. Hey, this one comes from Matt. He lives in Wales, and he actually has 2 systems. The main one, in the main listening room, has a turntable, a Project VTE BT with an Audiophon OM10 cartridge. The phono stage is iFi Zen. Amp is a Riga Illicit MK5, and the digital source Blue Sound Node music streamer. The speakers are Q Acoustics 3050i's. The second system is the home office system. The source there is an iFi Zen Blue V2 amp, Denon PMA 210 SA. The speakers, that's where it gets interesting here for Matt. The speakers are quad Q11s. He's had these speakers for over 20 years and he loves them more than ever. Good going, Matt. Okay, we are back. My name is Steve Guttenberg and I am the Audiophiliac. Thank you so much for watching. If you really enjoy these shows, please remember to hit the like button and also subscribe if you have yet to do so. But if you really want to support the show in the best possible way, consider joining my Patreon. To do so is really easy. There's the address on the screen right now, and you can join at various price levels and stuff. And Patreon now accepts payment in dollars, pounds, and euros. And with that, I can say my work here is at last complete. Thank you again for watching. And I really do hope to see you back here again very soon. Bye-bye.